In other words, there's something in us that wants to be busy all the time, does not want any quietness, reflection, or rest. And rest for your soul is a good thing. It's just a good thing to find a little bit of rest. Put your feet up and recognize that the world isn't running because you are running it. And the one who is running it took a rest. Well, welcome to Coffee and Conversation this afternoon. I'm Rawlin Falk. This is Toby Mak. We're together again. And today, Toby's actually going to be interviewing me because I spoke at the Two Rivers Church on Sunday. And so, Toby, why don't you just take the floor there?
Thanks, Rawlin. It's great to have Rawlin and Pam at Two Rivers, and as you know, when guests come in, we say, "Hey, we're reading through this. You feel free to join, but you have the option to." And as we were going through Exodus and the chapters 31 to 35, so lots of scripture. So Rawlin has work cut out, but Rawlin, you're pretty excited about that. My first question is, the Old Testament is not easy. It's there's a lot of story, big chunks. Sometimes people recommend start with the Gospels, start with Jesus, but what's your approach as you read? I know you've read the Bible many times, but think about a young Christian who's coming to you and say, I don't know about this Old Testament stuff. What's your response to someone like that?
Well, of course, for someone who's just become in the process of becoming a believer, starting in the New Testament is where we are actually living. But without a basic or without some fundamental knowledge of the Old Testament, you don't really understand the New Testament. You can see what's happening or what's the details that are there, but you don't know why. And so you read through the Old Testament at some point. Anybody who avoids the Old Testament is avoiding the scriptures that Paul used. All of the New Testament preachers were founding their preaching in the Hebrew scriptures because they didn't have a New Testament yet. And so to avoid it is to avoid the foundation of our faith. That's where it is. It's right there. So I'm not sure. I recognize why people find it difficult, because some of the cultural differences are huge. When we see them, it's hard to accept the fact that what they were doing, they could still be called a man of God or a woman of God when they did what they did. And yet, in a cultural sense, there are many things that culture dictates to us as well that are not necessarily strictly biblical. And so if you can read it in that light, the book of Genesis, of course, it's a book of beginnings, and every biblical doctrine, I understand at least, scholars say this, and I'm not a scholar, but they'll say that every biblical doctrine is founded in the book of Genesis somewhere. And so it's an absolutely wonderful book. Exodus is, for me, one of my favorites as well. There's very few books in the Scripture that if you have read them and understand how and why they're written, where they're written and whatnot, they're all exciting, is what they are. Because there's a story of people. This is our fathers. This is people who came before us. And to me, that's what's good about it. And like I say, the foundation of what we believe is there.
Well, I was glad. I mean, you kind of lit up when, or maybe it's through text, where It's like, hey, it's Exodus 31 to 35. Obviously, it's not the plagues, it's not the commandments. So that's maybe what people know in terms of popular culture and movies. But maybe could you kind of summarize it in a pretty succinct way, just what's happening in these chapters?
Well, to me, those 5 chapters, and by the way, all of them, when you read the 10 Commandments, that's an absolutely wonderful thing. I preached on the 10 Commandments for a period of time because they are exciting, really. If you think about a lawyer friend of mine told me that he gave me the number. It was like hundreds of thousands of laws on the books in Canada to try to control people. And here's 10.
Yeah, right.
God could somehow reduce the complexity of the human experience into 10, if you'd say, if they call rules or commandments that are that help with the kind of free working of society. 10 things. Yeah. And they're memorable, they're things that you can know. And so what I did was I said, and this is the way I see those 5 chapters, Exodus 31 to 35, is they're a picture of the human experience is what they are. The whole human experience. See, at the very beginning, it talks about the first chapter is about the call of God. God actually naming people and saying, I've called this person, I've called that one, and this is what I'm giving them to do. It has to do with a personal interest that God has in what you do with your life. And then the second chapter, of course, had to do with people's failure, how they got impatient and tired. They wanted to worship God. Actually set up something in order to do the spiritual thing, but they didn't do it his way, and they did it in a way that he commanded they shouldn't, that they knew that he shouldn't do. And so they failed. It's a picture of human failure. In the next chapter, when Moses finds out, what does he do? He intercedes. He has this little intercession section between him and God. And that was, to me, just it's a wonderful intercession because, of course, the interaction includes the fact that he's not trying to justify what they did. He didn't even need to know exactly what they did yet, but before he started to intercede. You can intercede, you can pray, you can call on God for people, and you don't know what they're doing, but you can still do that. That's what Moses was doing there. He interceded on people's behalf, and he did it on the basis of the standard of God's character and his righteousness and his word, not because the people were nice. And I'm grateful for that. Yeah. And then, of course, the next chapter, it talks about repentance and restoration, and how when he came down off the mountain, he speaks a word of restoration to them, to his brother Aaron. He gives him like, what did you do? And of course, Aaron tried to make an excuse a little bit, which of course is a fairly common human response when we're caught, And then, of course, Moses interceded again because it wasn't enough just for them to be forgiven. A lot of people are happy with forgiveness. Happy just, well, I'm not going to hell, I'm going to go to heaven. Somebody told me once, well, I don't think I'll be very far in. I'll maybe be the garbage collector in heaven or something, but I just want to get in the door. And they want to live for themselves yet, but just have forgiveness. Well, Moses isn't satisfied with that. He wanted the presence of God. And it was only when God and his presence came with them, when he showed up again, when the presence of God was there, that in the last chapter they're restored. They are actually, he calls the same people that had failed. They called them by name and gave them their ministry back. what they were to do, their calling in life. And so to me, that's the outline of just 5 wonderful chapters, the story, if you'd say, of my life.
Okay.
You know, it's a story of the way we've lived. And that's why I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
And I probably was a little bit long on Sunday, but
There was a lot there.
yeah,
for sure,
how do you cover 5 chapters in a few minutes?
yeah.
Eh?
My apologies.
No problem. That was good. I'm glad they were all there.
Yeah. I mean, you ended on call, but I mean, going back to this idea of call, I mean, how do often that term "I've been called" relates specific to ministers?
Yeah.
There's so few actually who are ministers, so to speak. Should we counsel our people to hear a very specific call? What does that look like?
I'm not absolutely certain that you need to hear it, more as much as you need to feel. Like there's what is it? A fellow that I knew many years ago, he's a man that I highly respect in the kingdom of God. And he said, I can tell you what the calling of God is in your life. He says, if you can sit down and tell me at the end of your life what you would like people to say about you, I can tell you what your calling is.
Interesting.
I thought that was kind of an interesting view of it. And so I sat down and I thought, what would I want written on my tombstone? Now, I was in my 30s. I wasn't planning on dying. But I just thought, what am I aiming at in my life? And if you can identify what it is that gives you joy and passion, because God has given you the desires of your heart. And if you have a desire to do artwork, He has put that in you. You have a desire to play music, He has put that in you. And to satisfy something in your soul, you need to somehow express that. Well, that is, in fact, at least a good part of your calling. And of course, we're all called to be sons of God. We're called to be like Christ. But apart from that aspect, and that's what you're asking, as people often do think what you just said, that a call of God has to do with being a pastor. That is a very, very limited view of it. I'm not a pastor. That is not my gifting.
Okay, interesting.
I pastor, and I have.
Yeah.
I did for years. I pastored people, but it's hard work. For me, I'm a teacher, and I knew that from the very beginning. The passion, everything. It doesn't matter whether I'm doing construction work or whatever I'm doing. It's like I want to show people, and that's my passion in life, is to understand something new and be able to teach it.
And I think that's so key, because you're not saying it's tied to the title. It's internal, and you found a way in different roles to fulfill that.
Yeah, a lot of people who are called pastor in churches aren't. They might have an evangelistic call on their life. They like to lead people to Christ. Others have a teaching call on their life. Some of them maybe are more apostolic in the sense that they are able to speak extra locally to other churches and whatnot. They've developed that kind of a calling. There's people who have maybe more of a prophetic kind of a ministry, and yet they'll be called pastor, just because we don't know what else to call people. In our culture, that's the appropriate term. In the same way, I suppose, as you would say to a doctor, you'd say doctor, and he might be an internist, he could be a surgeon, he could be a GP, but he's doctor to everybody. You don't specify his specialty. So,
I just find it maybe liberating in a way, because I'm raising children, and looking at their lives, wondering, okay, what will they do? You know, it's kind of like, what will you be? But actually, you know, the discovery of finding that gifting, that calling, that passion, and obviously our world's changing. There's all this talk, AI is wiping out these many jobs, etc. But actually, under God, there's a way, there's something He's given to us, and we can work that out.
Yeah. And I said Sunday too. You know, if you ask a person who's recently come to the Lord how they came to the Lord, it isn't usually because of a pastor. It's usually because a co-worker, a teacher, a friend, a neighbor, a family member has witnessed to them. It'll be somebody other than somebody with that specific calling. And so they're not the most significant person necessarily. It's a responsible position, and they are going to answer for what they do and say. However, it isn't necessarily the only calling of God. And so, all of us, we all have a calling from God in our life. You do, I do. And it isn't necessarily, we need to pursue that and find pleasure and rest in it. Just rest in who you actually are. Somebody once said to me, said, you know, when we're dead and gone, there'll still be something to do. Well, yeah, there's something in that. You know, I mean, you can't do everything. Nobody.
So Moses definitely had a call. He's up on the mountain, 40 days, 40 nights. There's kind of like there's two parts. You know, he's getting all these instructions for the tabernacles. That was the chapters before. The people down there are wondering, what is going on? You made an interesting connection to prayer. Could you talk a little bit about that, I think, in terms of the persistence of prayer?
Oh, yeah. You know, we often expect, because we're promised that He would answer prayer, that when I pray a prayer, He should do it, and He should do it in my time, like now, for instance. And because we've got this instant kind of mentality, rather than seeing that God has a different time frame than we do somehow. And so, you know, he can still be true to His word, answer your prayers, even though you don't see it in the time frame that you want. And people often give up. They just quit, say, well, it didn't work. Just simply because it didn't work the way they thought it should, when in fact God has His own method and in fact His own time. And we have to be content with that, content with the fact that when we present our requests, that He knows them, He's heard our prayer, and that He will answer. And so,
And I mean, you know, when you look at that story, again, from a modern lens, you know, it seems like ridiculous because they've experienced the miracles of Exodus. Then there's does Aaron have the idea, or do they have the idea of taking off these gold?
Aaron said it.
Aaron said it. And they melt it down. And it becomes this calf. And you kind of, you know, was it like, well, it's the shape of the pot and we'll call it a calf, or is it, you know, did they mold it? Who knows? But like, it seems like
they molded it.
They molded it.
Oh yeah.
They've forgotten so fast, and yet this is who we are too.
Well, there were parts that they forgot. They didn't forget everything. They said, we don't know what happened to this Moses who led us out of Egypt. They still remembered Egypt. They knew they'd come out, and they knew there was God involved in it. And they had all these commands that, you know, if you read the previous chapters, God had already communicated to them about not making idols and about, you know, certain aspects of their life. And they're there. There's part that they forgot. They remembered parts and they forgot parts. And I think that that's a problem for a lot of us. You know, you remember certain things and you don't remember others. I don't know about you. You're married. You've been married a number of years. You've possibly, potentially, been annoyed with your wife at times.
Theoretically,
she might have been annoyed with you too.
Yeah.
But here, what happened to me one time? I was mad at my wife. Now, don't ask me. I love my wife. She's a wonderful woman. We've been married 56 years, and I'm thrilled with her still. She's as beautiful as she was when I married her. However, I was mad at her one day, and I don't ask me where this thought came from.
Okay.
But I just thought, well, I've kept my vows. And the Spirit of God spoke in my heart. He said, oh, really? Have you now? Now, the pastor who married us gave us a little book with the ceremony in it. He said, why don't you read them again? So I read them. And what they say is you will love her and cherish her, honor her and keep her. And you do all of these things. The only thing that I hadn't done, I mean, I used to make wife jokes. I've made all kinds of negative comments, and the only thing I hadn't done was gone with somebody else. And I realized that I had not kept my vows. I'd only kept a piece of them. And that's a problem with us in our relationship with God sometimes. Yeah. We keep a piece of what we knew, what the commitment we made. We keep a part of it. And we forget a whole pile of things that we said we'd do. And it's good to review it once in a while, I think.
Yeah.
So I read those vows every once in a while, by the way.
Okay.
And I give that little book to people that I marry, so that they will, they'll also be able to read them, and I tell them they should.
Yeah, that's wise.
Yeah.
The story, the narrative moves on to interaction between Moses and Aaron. You spent a bit of time working through leaders.
I'm sorry for that, well, I'm not sorry.
Not sorry.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. But, the thing is that what Moses did was, instead of actually coming down on the whole group and preaching at the congregation, he took Aaron aside, said, what did they do? And that you did this.
Yeah.
And, of course, leadership is always more answerable. You take a leadership position in anything. It doesn't matter if you happen to be at a Starbucks store and you now take a manager's position. You can feel like you're managing the whole process, the whole thing. You're doing it all, not getting paid for it. You take the manager's position, you find out now you're responsible for what happens under you. And on a construction job, the same thing. And in fact, in the church, it's the same. Who's responsible here? By the way, that's the first thing that most people try to figure out in a situation. Whose fault is this?
Yeah.
And, what I found out years ago is if you just say, listen, it's my fault. Let's just move on now. Okay? It's my fault.
Yeah.
Matter. Everybody, that just answers that question. What are we going to do about it? And the leadership in any organization is responsible for what its people do. So you will answer to God, and so will I, for what happens under us, which is scary.
Yep, it is. There's one thing that was maybe surprising, you brought up a few times, was rest and Sabbath and celebration, and I really had not caught on to that. In the midst of, there's so much happening, what do you think the significance is of God talking about Sabbath constantly and about these festivals?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. the way I see that one, when you read through the whole of the Old Testament, when you read it in the beginning, it's basically just pretty severe. Because if you're not severe at the beginning or very clear, it doesn't. It'll never take place. It's just sort of a suggestion. And so they had been slaves. Now, don't ask me why they would rebel against the idea of a Sabbath, because they'd been slaves for 430 years, and I do not believe that their masters gave them any time off.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. If God hadn't given them that command, they would have turned out exactly the same. They would have had their servants, their employees. They'd had them working 7 days a week, just like they had.
Yeah.
And God knew that humanity needs a rest. You just need time to unwind. That's why we sleep. That's why he gave that command. And the reason I brought it up multiple times is because it came up multiple times in those chapters. And a lot of time people focus on the actual day, which is, of course, in some people's mind, very important, and that's okay. But for me, it's the principle. It's the principle that he has called us to rest, to allow for that. And in fact, it wasn't just one day. He had feasts during the year. And what those feasts were, I've read that section of Leviticus multiple times, and I thought about it one day, and I thought, okay, so they have a fire in the middle of the camp, and they are effectively cooking beef or lamb. So you wake up and what do you smell? You smell barbecue. And a lot of those feasts that they had and the sacrifices were not unlike a barbecue in some ways, that invited the presence of God and acknowledged his presence and the fact that the animal that had given its life on their behalf. But it was family and friends. They were cooking a meal and enjoying it together. And God mandated that. That we get together and eat. I think, I like that. Talk about a kindness. Smell that barbecue. Good. Now I'm hungry.
Because on the one hand, we think, not having a day off for years is hard to fathom, and yet at the same time, we live in, especially today, in a world where, in my job, I can be connected 24/7. There's a lot of this type of work, and you hear people say, whether they call it workaholic or not, people will give their lives, whether that's pursuit of status, money, whatever, and they will just go for it. They'll put in those hours, and it's weird because we're reading about slaves. On the other hand, there's something slavish in us that will keep going.
All you have to do is watch people sit down for a few minutes, and the first thing they do, and no matter where you're sitting, the first thing they do is get it out, and they're a slave to the process.
Right.
You mentioned that when you were speaking at our church about doom scrolling and the fact that people are busy. Like, in other words, there's something in us that wants to be busy all the time, does not want any quietness, reflection, or rest. And rest for your soul is a good thing. It's just a good thing to find a little bit of rest. Put your feet up and recognize that the world isn't running because you are running it. And the one who is running it took a rest.
And maybe that is the most amazing point that God puts on it. That seventh day. Is there anything else? There's lots of other contents in there. Anything you want to mention from what you've covered?
I don't. I think we've. If there's other question, obviously, there's two methods that people could deal with it. They can read the 5 chapters themselves, reflect on it, and wait on the Lord on those 5 chapters. You can watch Sunday's message, I believe, on the Two Rivers website, and that would be those would be good solutions for that one. Other than that, that's
Well, I mean, mostly you guys are a New Life audience, but I want to say thank you again. Just the partnership, the friendship, and I'll say one story, and then you can confirm or deny. But I remember early on, and I think it might have been some of the transition time when you were at Maple Park and you were stepping in, and I remember you saying something like, I'm not gonna do admin and all that stuff, but what I will do is I'm going to spend time in prayer for this church and preach and teach the Word of God. And I thought, wow, there was a level of clarity I felt and conviction from understanding your call and the weight of that role in that time.
Yeah, I've tried all of those roles. I had a small company for a while, which I ran, a construction company, and it absolutely ate me. I hated it. And so I learned early on, like in my 20s, that I'm not an administrator. I don't like it. I find it difficult, and because of that, although I see the things that need doing, I leave them undone. And there's always a mess if I try to administrate. And so I just learned to leave that one alone. And I'm not a really good prayer, by the way. I believe that prayer is where we actually touch God, and I believe that anybody in leadership ought to spend time praying for their people, because it will give answer for them. And so, to me, that's a very, very important part of your ministry, is actually praying. And so I did that, prayed for anyone who would put their name on and ask me to pray. I prayed every day. Not Saturday, I took a day off. But I prayed every day for people by name and with knowledge of who they were and what they did. That's no credit. That's basically, to me, is the job. It's what you do. And so that's all I really know how to do. So that's why it's my job. Somebody else is an administrator. A good secretary is just an absolutely wonderful gift. They make you look good.
Right. Well, you've been a blessing to me, certainly, and I'm sure many, many people in Quesnel. So thank you to you and Pam and your love and obedience to Jesus.
Yeah, well, thank you, and the Lord bless you. Peace be on you.